The first thing I saw when I opened my banking app was a single red line that didn't belong there. Access denied. Not wrong password. Not try again. Not even a polite little spinning wheel. Just a hard stop, like a door slammed in my face. For a second, I stared at it without blinking, thumb hovering over the screen, the way you do when your brain is trying to decide whether it's a glitch or a warning. Then my account summary refreshed behind the error for a split second, and I caught the number before it disappeared again. $240,000, restricted hold. My trust fund, the one my father set up because he didn't trust life to stay stable, and he didn't trust our family to stay kind. I didn't call my sister to argue. That's what she would have wanted. Tessa didn't steal by force. She stole by reaction. Deal by getting you to scream so she could say, "See? She's unstable. I'm the reasonable one." So I did what I always do when something smells wrong. I documented first. I took a screenshot, then another one when the app kicked me out completely. Then I opened my notes app and typed the time down to the minute. My hands were steady, but my skin felt cold, like my body had sensed the fall before my mind finished counting the distance. Then I called the number printed on the back of my debit card. "Fraud prevention, this is Alana," a woman said, voice calm in that trained way that makes you feel like you're either safe or already too late. "My mobile access is denied," I said. "My trust account says it's on restricted hold." There was a pause, a keyboard, a click. "Ma'am," she said carefully, "I'm seeing a security restriction placed on your profile." "By who?" I asked. "We can't disclose that over the phone," she replied. "But I can tell you it was triggered by an attempted authority change." Authority change. My throat tightened. "What kind?" Another pause, longer. I could hear her deciding which words wouldn't get her in trouble. "A legal access request," she said. "Power of attorney related." My mouth went dry. Power of attorney meant someone didn't just want to move money, they wanted to become me on paper. "I didn't submit anything," I said. "I didn't authorize anyone." "I understand," she replied. "Because of the hold, we can't remove it remotely. You'll need to go to a branch in person with government ID, ask for a branch manager or a senior banker. They can verify your identity and open the case notes." "How long has this been on hold?" I asked. "It was placed this morning," she said, "but the attempt that triggered it is dated yesterday afternoon." Yesterday, I didn't answer right away because the timing mattered and my brain was already pulling up the last time I'd seen my sister. Yesterday at 4. Tessa had been dropping off something at my apartment. She'd insisted on coming up, even though I told her I was busy. She'd stood in my kitchen, glancing around like she was taking inventory of my life, talking too fast about her latest system, her latest opportunity, her latest sure thing. She'd laughed when I said I wasn't interested. "You're so scared of money," she'd said, like it was a personality flaw. "Must be exhausting." Now I heard the real sentence behind it. I must be easy. "I'm going now," I told the fraud rep. "Please don't confront anyone you suspect," she said immediately. "Just go to the branch. Let them handle it." "I won't confront," I said, and I meant it. "I'm not here for a fight. I'm here for the record." I grabbed my ID, my passport, and the trust paperwork I kept in a folder I almost never touched because touching it made my family feel closer than I wanted them to be. I pulled my hair back, threw on a coat, and left without checking the mirror. In the elevator down, I opened my camera roll and stared at the screenshots until my eyes stopped trying to pretend it was a bad update. Access denied. Restricted hold. Outside, the morning had that clean, sharp brightness that makes everything look harmless. People walked their dogs. Someone jogged past with headphones. A delivery truck hissed at the curb. And I walked to my car like I was going to a dentist appointment. Because that's what it felt like something inside me was about to be exposed, drilled into, and then left raw. The branch I went to wasn't my usual one. It was closer, bigger, newer, glass walls, polished floors, the kind of place that smells like air freshener and money. I parked, took one more screenshot of the time on my lock screen, and walked in. The first thing I noticed was the security guard near the door. The second thing I noticed was the way his gaze slid to the right and stayed there. I followed it. In a small consultation area near the windows, my sister sat in a chair like she belonged there, perfect posture, neutral makeup, calm hands folded on her lap. She was wearing the cardigan she only wore when she wanted to look responsible. Across from her, a banker sat, half turned toward a monitor, his shoulders tight. His nameplate on the desk read, Mark Pierce, Senior Relationship Manager. And on the corner of the desk, face down, was a phone with a pink case I recognized instantly. Tessa's. So she'd been filming earlier? Or planning to. My sister saw me the moment I stepped inside. Her mouth curved into a small, sweet smile that would have fooled anyone who hadn't grown up with her. She didn't stand. She didn't wave. She just watched me walk across the lobby like I was walking into her stage. Mark Pierce looked up and blinked like he'd been waiting for me to arrive because he'd already been told the story that would make me look like the problem. "Ms. Hart?" he asked. "That's me," I said, and kept my voice even. Not polite, not hostile, just factual. My sister leaned back slightly and spoke before the banker could. "I told you she'd show up," she said, soft and patient, as if she was explaining a symptom. She approved it. She's just emotional this morning. There it was. The trigger word. Emotional. The same word she used whenever she wanted someone with authority to stop listening to me. I didn't look at her. I looked at Mark. "I'm here because my banking access was denied and my trust account is on restricted hold," I said. "I called the fraud line. They told me to come in with ID." Mark nodded once, still guarded. "Thank you for coming in," he said. "Before we do anything, I need to verify your identity." "Of course," I replied, and slid my driver's license and passport across the desk. My sister laughed quietly. "See? Drama," she murmured, like showing ID was proof of instability. Mark didn't react. He compared my face to the photo, then typed something into his system. I watched his fingers. I watched the way his eyes moved. I watched the screen reflect in his glasses for half a second. Then he stopped typing. He didn't freeze like someone surprised. He froze like someone who just realized he'd been sitting with the wrong person. His mouse clicked once. Then again. His jaw tightened. Tessa leaned forward, still calm. "We just need the temporary access restored," she said. "She was fine yesterday. She told me she wanted me to handle it because she didn't want to deal with all the paperwork. She always does this. Agrees and then panics." Mark didn't answer her. He looked at me and his voice changed. Not louder, not harsher, just different. More careful. I'm more official. "Ms. Hart," he said, "did you attempt to add a power of attorney to your trust profile yesterday at 4:12 p.m.? My stomach dropped, but my face didn't move. "No," I said. "I did not." My sister didn't blink. "Yes, she did," she said smoothly. "I was with her. She asked me to." Mark's eyes flicked to Tessa for a brief moment, like he was measuring the confidence in her lie. Then back to the screen. He clicked again, and then he did something that told me exactly how bad it was. He turned his monitor slightly away from my sister. Not dramatically. Not like a movie. Just enough to keep her from seeing. Then he looked at me and asked very quietly, "Do you recognize the name of the person who submitted the request?" I didn't answer yet. Hide because my sister's whole body had shifted in that tiny way it always did when she sensed a door closing. Mark took a breath, then turned the screen toward me instead. On the display was a case note with a timestamp. Yesterday, 4:12 p.m. Beneath it, POA, add request, pending review, triggered security hold. And next to the request, under submitted by, was a name. A name that was not mine. I didn't have to ask who it was. The name on the screen was my sister's. Not just her first name, her full legal name. Exactly the way it appears on formal documents, with the middle initial she only uses when she's trying to look legitimate. I felt something inside me go very still. My sister leaned forward, eyes bright. "See?" she said softly. "It's fine. I told you she wanted me to handle it." Mark didn't look at her. He looked at me. And the way his voice lowered told me he'd stop treating this like a customer service issue. "Ms. Hart," he said, "I need you to answer clearly. Did you authorize your sister to submit a power of attorney request yesterday?" "No," I said. The word landed clean. No explanation, no pleading, just a fact. My sister's smile tightened at the edges. "She's embarrassed," she said to Mark, like she was translating me. "She hates admitting she needs help. She gets defensive." Mark's fingers hovered over his keyboard, then paused. He glanced up at the green light on a small camera in the corner of the consultation area. A standard security cam, not placed for drama, placed for banks that know people lie. He stood. "Ms. Hart," he said, "please come with me to my office, alone." My sister's head snapped up. "Excuse me?" she said, still sweet. I am but sharper underneath. "I'm her authorized agent." Mark didn't argue. He just turned his screen slightly so she could see one line. "Your request is pending review," he said calmly. "That means you are not authorized, and I'm not discussing her account details with you." My sister opened her mouth to protest. The older security guard appeared as if summoned by the tone shift. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. He just stepped closer so the air around my sister felt less flexible. Mark looked at me again. "Please," he repeated. I gathered my ID and the folder I'd brought. My sister's gaze followed my hands like she expected me to drop something incriminating. As we walked, I heard her say behind us, loud enough for the lobby to hear, "This is what she does. She agrees, then panics. I then makes everyone miserable." I didn't turn around. Because I wasn't here to win a family argument. I was here to stop a transaction. Mark's office was small and clean, with a glass wall that blurred the lobby into shapes and movement. He shut the door, and the quiet inside made my pulse louder. He pointed to a chair. I sat. Then he did the first thing that told me he believed me more than he wanted to. He printed. A sheet slid out of the printer, and he held it in his hand for a second without giving it to me, eyes scanning it like he was double-checking something before he let it become real. "Here's what happened," he said. "Yesterday at 4:12 p.m., a power of attorney ad request was initiated on your trust profile. The request included an uploaded document and a scanned ID." My stomach tightened. "A scanned ID?" Mark nodded once. "Front and back." I held my face still. Inside, something cold moved, because there were only a few ways my sister could have gotten that. One of them involved yesterday, in my kitchen, with her phone angled just a little too casually. Mark continued, "Our system automatically placed a restricted hold on your digital access because the request did not match your normal authentication pattern." "Meaning?" I asked. He pointed to a line on his screen. "The request came from a device we've never seen on your profile," he said. "Different IP region, different browser fingerprint, and the document upload didn't come through your secure portal login." My throat went dry. "So how did it come through?" Mark's jaw tightened. "In-branch submission," he said. Someone came in and asked a teller to scan and attach the documents to your trust profile." I stared at him. "Here?" He nodded. "This branch." My hand stayed on my lap. My fingers didn't clench. I just breathed in slowly and let the meaning settle. My sister wasn't just trying to talk a banker into something. She had already used the bank itself as her printer, her scanner, her witness. Mark slid the printed page across to me. It had the timestamp, the case note, and a staff ID code. "You can see the time, the channel, and the employee code," he said. "I'm not going to name the employee until our internal review is done." I looked at the time. 4:12 p.m. yesterday. My sister hadn't dropped something off. She'd been on a schedule. Was there a withdrawal? I asked. Mark exhaled like he'd been saving that part. There was an attempted disbursement request that followed, he said. Not completed. Attempted. How much? My voice came out even, but I felt the skin on my arms prickle. Mark looked me in the eyes. $200,000, he said. For a second, my hearing narrowed. The words were too big to fit inside a normal afternoon. $200,000 wasn't help. $200,000 was a life-altering theft wearing a cardigan. Mark tapped his screen. It was structured as an outgoing wire request from the trust distribution account, he said. Destination was listed as an investment intermediary. An investment intermediary, I repeated, because that phrase was familiar in the way scams are familiar. Mark didn't blink. Mark, the destination bank description contains keywords that are consistent with online gambling payment processors, he said carefully, which is why the second layer of controls triggered. My jaw tightened. So she tried to gamble my trust fund. Mark didn't confirm with a dramatic yes. He confirmed like a professional who knows words matter. I'm saying yes, he replied. The payment destination profile aligns with entities our fraud system flags as high risk. I sat back, forcing my shoulders to relax. Show me the document, I said. Mark hesitated. I can show you what was submitted, he said, but I can't give you a copy until you sign an affidavit that you did not authorize it. After that, it becomes part of a fraud case file. Bring the affidavit, I said. Mark nodded once, stood, and opened a drawer. He took out a form packet already labeled with a case number. That alone told me this wasn't rare. He slid it across the desk and pointed to the line that mattered. It was a simple statement. I did not authorize any power of attorney changes. I did not request disbursement. I believe my identity was used without consent. I signed. My pen didn't shake. Mark watched me sign like he was watching a door close. Then he clicked something in his system, and a new window popped up. He turned the screen toward me. On the screen was the uploaded POA document preview, with a digital notary block at the bottom. The names were typed. The date was yesterday. The signature line had a stylized scribble that looked like my name, the way my name looks when someone has only seen it on a screen. And the notary section listed a state I had not been in for years. My chest tightened. That's not my signature, I said. Mark's mouth set. I know, he said quietly. How? I asked. He tapped the notary block. Because a legitimate remote notarization includes a verification method and session metadata, he said. This submission is missing required elements. And because the ID scan attached to it, he clicked to the next page. Isn't the scan from your in-person verification today? He pulled up two images side by side. The ID scan submitted yesterday and the scan he'd taken from my passport and license today. To a stranger, they'd look the same. To a system that sees clean edges, resolution artifacts, and scan patterns, they didn't. The one submitted yesterday had glare lines like it had been photographed off a screen. I'd a picture of a picture. My sister hadn't copied my ID. She'd photographed it, probably while I wasn't looking. Mark printed both images and slid them into the affidavit packet. This creates a stronger case, he said, because it establishes that the ID attached to the POA was not captured through our secure in-branch verification. My stomach turned, not with panic, with recognition. My sister always built her lies like that, close enough to pass for a minute, relying on the fact most people don't look too hard. But banks look hard. That's literally their job. A knock hit the glass door. Mark didn't open it immediately. He glanced at a small monitor embedded in his desk. Internal camera feed for his office hallway. My sister stood outside the door, face composed, but her eyes sharp. She'd somehow talked her way past the guard. Mark opened the door halfway and stepped into the gap, blocking her view of my paperwork. I need to speak with her, my sister said, voice soft. She's confused. Mark didn't move. This is now a fraud review, he said. You are not authorized. My sister's smile widened, strained. She's making accusations because she's embarrassed, she said. She gets overwhelmed. She'll sign anything if you scare her. Mark's eyes narrowed slightly. Ma'am, he said, the only person who attempted to sign anything on her behalf is you. My sister's eyes flashed. That's a lie. Mark didn't argue. He turned his head slightly, just enough for me to hear him speak to someone on his desk phone. Branch security, he said calmly. I need a supervisor at my office door. Then he looked at my sister again. You need to step away, he said. My sister's voice stayed sweet, but it slipped. She told me I could, she said. She told me yesterday. She said she didn't want to deal with her trust stuff anymore because she's always been irresponsible with money. I stared at her through the small gap in the door. That's your story? I asked quietly. My sister's eyes locked on mine. It's the truth, she said. And then she did the thing she always did when she felt control slipping. She said the word that made other people stop listening to me. Emotional, she added with a sad little shake of her head, as if she was the only adult in the room. Mark closed the door gently in her face. A moment later, a security supervisor arrived and spoke to my sister out in the hallway. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw my sister's posture stiffen. Then I saw her do a careful, eye-controlled retreat, like someone backing away from a fire they started. Mark turned back to me and lowered his voice. Ms. Hart, he said, the reason your app says access denied is because the hold is protecting you, but there is one more issue. My stomach tightened again. What issue? He clicked to another screen. There was an attempt to change your contact information yesterday, he said. Email, phone, mailing address. I felt cold behind my eyes. To what? Mark turned the screen toward me. It showed my profile phone number, replaced with my sister's. My email, replaced with an address I'd never seen. And my mailing address, changed to a P.O. box across town. Mark looked at me. If we hadn't placed the hold, he said, you wouldn't have received any alerts. You would have woken up one day with your trust dispersed and no notifications. I swallowed, keeping my voice level. Can you reverse all changes? Yes, he said. But you need to do two things right now. First, we have to lock your profile with in-person verification only. Second, I want you to file a formal fraud report with us today, and I strongly recommend you file a police report as well, because she presented identity documents and attempted to gain legal authority. I nodded once. Do it, I said. Mark clicked a few times, and the system made a soft chime sound that felt like a vault door closing. Then he printed another page and handed it to me. It was titled, Trust Disbursement Attempt, Pending. At the bottom was a cutoff time in bold. If it wasn't stopped and formally voided before end of business, it could still be processed. Mark looked up at me. We can stop it, he said. But the fraud team will want to know why she was trying to move $200,000 to a gambling-linked processor. I didn't blink, because I already knew why. My sister didn't want to borrow money. She wanted a lever. And if she could become my legal authority on paper, she could pull that lever again and again. I slid the printout into my folder and stood. Where is she right now? I asked. Mark glanced at the hallway camera again. She's in the lobby, he said, and she's calling someone. I didn't need to ask who, because there was only one person my sister called when she needed a second voice to turn me into the villain. And when I walked out of Mark's office and saw my sister by the window with her phone to her ear, I caught the one word she said before she noticed me watching. Mom. The lobby looked the same as it had when I walked in, bright, clean, harmless. But now I could see the pressure points. The security guard by the door wasn't watching for robberies. He was watching for people who tried to weaponize a scene. The teller's counter wasn't just a counter. It was a place where signatures became facts. And my sister stood by the window with her phone pressed to her ear like she'd always belonged here. Mom, she said again, softer this time, like she was calling for backup in a fight she thought she was winning. When she finally noticed me watching, she didn't flinch. She smiled. That smile was the worst part of her. It said she still believed this was social, emotional, family, not criminal. I walked toward her at a normal pace. I'm not fast enough to look aggressive, not slow enough to look afraid. I held my folder close to my side so no one could see the pages inside and start making guesses. Tessa lowered the phone a few inches. There you are, she said, sweet as syrup. I'm trying to help you. I stopped a few feet away, leaving space between us like a boundary drawn with air. Step away from my accounts, I said quietly. Her smile widened. See? Emotional, she said, like she was narrating me to an audience that didn't exist yet. You're spiraling. I didn't respond to the label. I responded to the fact. You tried to add a power of attorney yesterday at 4:12, I said. You tried to wire $200,000 to a gambling-linked processor. You tried to change my phone, email, Johnny's an address so I wouldn't get alerts. Her eyes flicked, just once, to the hallway where Mark's office was. A micro-check. Then her face smoothed again. That's not what happened, she said. You told me to handle the boring parts because you're always overwhelmed. You're just embarrassed now. I nodded once as if I was agreeing. Then I took out my phone, opened my notes, and typed a single line without looking down. She denies POA attempt. Lobby. Time. I added the time and hit save. Tessa watched me. Are you taking notes? She asked, laughter in her voice like I was ridiculous. Yes, I said. She blinked. Why? Because later you'll say you never said this, I replied. Her smile thinned. Behind me, I heard a soft shift of footsteps. The security supervisor Mark had called earlier had moved closer. Not next to me. Not behind me, just within range. Like a quiet reminder that this wasn't a kitchen argument. Tessa noticed him too. She turned her phone back to her ear. Mom, get here, she said quickly, then lowered her voice and stepped closer. Rowan, she whispered, like she was doing me a favor by using my first name. Stop. You're making this worse. Worse for who? I asked. Her eyes sharpened. For you, she said. And then she smiled again, like she could soften the threat. Do you know what happens when banks think you're unstable? They lock everything down. They put notes on your profile. They treat you like a risk. I stared at her. Because that was the script. Not I'm sorry. Not I didn't mean it. Just, if you don't cooperate, I'll ruin your reputation inside the system. Then Mark stepped out of his office and walked into the lobby with a second man in a suit. Older, grayer, the kind of person who didn't smile for customers because he wasn't hired for customers. Branch manager energy. Tessa straightened immediately, turning her body toward them like she could switch masks in one breath. Thank God, she said, voice trembling on cue. She's confused. She's accusing me of things because she's overwhelmed. The branch manager didn't respond to her performance. He nodded once at the security supervisor, then looked at me. Ms. Hart, he said. I'm Daniel. I oversee the branch. Mark briefed me. I nodded once. Thank you for coming out, I said. Tessa jumped in. She approved everything, she insisted. She asked me to help because she can't handle her finances. She gets paranoid. Paranoid? New label. Like same strategy. Daniel looked at Mark. Do we have yesterday's in-branch submission details? He asked. Mark nodded. Employee code, scanner ID, timestamp, and the submitted document package, he said. And we can pull the lobby camera for the time window. The word camera hit Tessa like a slap. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Then she recovered. Sure, she said brightly. Pull it. You'll see her there. She was with me. Mark didn't argue. He just turned slightly and spoke to the security supervisor. Can you bring up the lobby feed from yesterday at 4:12? he asked. The supervisor nodded and gestured. Back office, he said. Daniel looked at me. Come with us, he said. You as well, ma'am, he added to Tessa, tone neutral. Tessa rose from the chair like she was walking into court, chin lifted, shoulders relaxed, and eyes already rehearsing a story where she was the rescuer. We went into a small back room that smelled like coffee and toner. A monitor on the wall displayed camera thumbnails. The security supervisor clicked through menus until one feed expanded. Lobby camera, timestamp in the corner. He scrubbed back to yesterday. The date rolled into place. Then the time. 4:12 p.m. My stomach tightened. Not because I didn't know what we'd see, because seeing makes it real in a way words never do. The video showed the lobby, the same sunlight through the glass, the same rows of chairs. And then Tessa walked into frame. Alone. No me beside her, no authorization. No, she asked me to. Just my sister, holding a folder, moving with purpose. She walked up to the teller line and leaned in close to a teller. Young, hair in a bun, name tag too small to read from this angle. Tessa pointed at a page, smiled, nodded like she'd done this 100 times. Then she slid something across the counter. The teller scanned it. Tessa glanced toward the lobby entrance twice, quick and subtle, like she was checking whether I'd followed her. I hadn't, because I hadn't even known. The security supervisor paused the video at the moment Tessa handed over the papers. He zoomed in until the image blurred, then sharpened slightly. You could see the edge of an ID card on top of the stack. My ID, or a picture of it. Tessa's lips parted. Mark didn't look at her. He looked at Daniel. That's the submission, he said. Daniel nodded slowly, eyes on the frozen frame. Then he looked at Tessa for the first time like she wasn't a family member, like she was a subject. Ma'am, he said evenly. Yeah, you told us she was present and consented. Tessa's eyes darted. She was outside, she blurted. She didn't want to come in. She told me to do it. Daniel didn't raise his voice. So she was not present in the branch for identity verification, he said. Tessa lifted her chin. She didn't need to be, she snapped, then caught herself and softened her tone again. I'm her sister. Mark clicked a few keys on a laptop and pulled up the submission metadata. He turned the screen toward Daniel and me. Here's the teller station ID, he said. Here's the scanner serial, here's the document package timestamp, and here's the contact change request that followed. He clicked again. A note field expanded with internal shorthand. Customer did not appear. Requester insisted. Presented ID scan. POA add requested. The words sat there, calm and deadly. Tessa's face went pale around the edges, and then, because she couldn't help herself, she tried to redirect the fire. You don't understand, she said, voice rising. She can't handle money. She's reckless. She'll lose it anyway. I was protecting her from herself. Mark's eyes flicked to me. Ms. Hart, he asked, careful. Do you have any prior power of attorney on file? No, I said. Have you ever asked her to manage your trust? He asked. No, I said again. Tessa slammed her palm lightly against the table. Because you're ashamed, she snapped, then immediately tried to soften it. Rowan, stop. You're making this huge. Daniel watched her like he'd seen 100 versions of her. Then he asked the question that mattered. Where was the wire going? He said. Tessa blinked. What? The attempted disbursement, Daniel repeated, your voice still even. The 200,000? Where was it going? Tessa's mouth opened and closed. An investment account, she said quickly. A broker. Mark tapped his screen. The destination profile is flagged, he said. It correlates with high-risk gambling payment processing. Tessa's eyes flashed. That's not gambling, she said too fast. Mark didn't react. He just nodded once, like her speed answered him. Daniel's gaze moved from the screen to Tessa's face. I'm going to be very clear, he said. This is an attempted legal authority change and disbursement request using another person's identity. That is not a family misunderstanding. That is fraud. The word fraud landed like a door locking. Tessa's breath hitched. Then she did what my mother taught her to do when the truth shows up. She weaponized panic, and she turned to Daniel and lowered her voice into something trembling and intimate. Please, she whispered. You don't know her like I do. She gets unstable. She threatens people. She says things. She's going to hurt herself over this. My stomach went cold, because that wasn't just a lie. That was a high-stakes lie. It was the kind of lie that triggers institutional responses. Wellness checks, flagged accounts, notes and systems, people speaking over you for your safety. Mark's face hardened. Ma'am, he said sharply, do not make mental health claims as leverage in a fraud review. Tessa's eyes widened, offended. I'm not leveraging, she protested. I'm worried. Daniel's expression didn't move. Then you can be worried outside, he said. Mute security will escort you out of the branch. Tessa stared at him like she couldn't believe she'd been denied. Then she spun toward me, voice low and venomous. Mom is coming, she hissed. And when she gets here, you'll regret this. I didn't answer, because I heard something through the back office door. A familiar voice, loud and urgent, carrying through the lobby like she owned the air. My mother. She hadn't even stepped into the room yet, but I could already hear her building the story. She's hysterical, my mother's voice rang out. She's trying to destroy her sister. Daniel's eyes met mine for a brief second, and in that look was something that felt almost like reassurance. Not emotional reassurance, procedural reassurance. He reached for a phone on the desk. Call law enforcement, he said to the security supervisor. And alert corporate fraud. We're preserving video, metadata, and the submission package. Tessa's face drained of color. Because she knew what my mother didn't. Once a bank says corporate fraud, the story doesn't belong to family anymore. It belongs to records. And when the back office door opened and my mother stormed in, eyes blazing, she didn't look at Daniel first. She looked at me. And she smiled like she'd finally arrived at the part where she wins. My mother didn't enter the back office like someone invited. She entered like she was taking back territory. Her perfume hit the room before her words did. Sharp, expensive, familiar in the worst way. She wore a black coat that looked chosen for sympathy and a face that looked chosen for control. Rowan, she said first, like she was addressing a child caught stealing. What did you do? Daniel didn't let her set the tone. Ma'am, he said evenly, this is a restricted employee area. You need to step back into the lobby. My mother's eyes flicked to him, then immediately away as if he were furniture. She was already scanning for the person she could dominate. She locked onto me. I knew this would happen, she said loudly, turning her body slightly so her words would carry. I knew you'd twist everything into a crisis. Tessa stood behind her, half a step back, eyes glossy, playing the part of the wounded sister. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. My mother was the voice. Tessa was the prop. Daniel raised a hand. Ma'am, he said again, firmer. You need to step out. My mother smiled at him like he'd made a cute suggestion. Then she pointed at me. She is not well, she announced. She's unstable. She's making accusations because she panics when she sees numbers. The word numbers made my stomach tighten. Not because it hurt me, because it told me what she was trying to do. She wasn't here to defend my sister. She was here to create a note, a permanent one, a note inside a bank system that would follow me like a stain, emotionally volatile, family dispute, unreliable. And if she could get that note, she could weaponize it later. Daniel didn't react the way my mother wanted. "I'm going to stop you," he said calmly. "This is an active fraud review. Mental health claims are not relevant, and we will not be adding anything to her profile based on your opinions." My mother's smile disappeared. "Opinions?" she repeated, voice rising. I raised her. Mark's jaw tightened. "That doesn't give you access to her trust," he said. My mother stepped closer to the desk, eyes sharp. "Then give me access," she snapped. "I'm her mother. I'm her emergency contact. Put me on the account." Daniel didn't look at her. He looked at the security supervisor. "Ma'am," Daniel said, "you are not authorized to be added as a contact, and you are not going to handle her finances." My mother laughed once, brittle. "You're letting her ruin her own life," she said, pointing at me again. "She's always been irresponsible, always. That trust fund was a mistake." I watched her mouth form the word trust like she'd been waiting years to say it out loud. Because that's what people like her do. They call you irresponsible until the moment they get their hands on your assets, then suddenly they're protecting you. Daniel's phone rang on the desk, a muted internal tone. He glanced at it and didn't answer immediately. My mother noticed. She leaned in, lowering her voice into something syrupy and urgent. "Listen," she said to Daniel. "I don't want trouble. I just want to help. If you keep indulging her paranoia, she'll hurt herself. And then this will be on you." There it was. The threat disguised as concern. My mother knew exactly which words make institutions flinch. Mark's face hardened. "Stop," he said sharply. "You are not going to use self-harm allegations to influence a fraud investigation." My mother's eyes flashed, offended. "How dare you?" she snapped. "I'm a mother." Daniel finally answered the phone. "Yes," he said, listening. "Understood. Thank you." He hung up and looked directly at me. "Corporate fraud is escalating this to a priority case," he said, "and law enforcement is en route." My mother's head jerked. "Law enforcement?" she barked. "For what? For my daughter being dramatic?" Daniel's voice stayed level. "For an attempted authority change, an attempted disbursement, and the use of identity documents without consent." My mother's gaze swung to Tessa, quick, furious, then back to Daniel. "You're accusing my daughter of a crime," she hissed. "No," Daniel said. "Your daughter's actions are documented on camera, in timestamps, and in system metadata." My mother's nostrils flared. She turned to me again, eyes burning. "Fix this," she demanded. "Right now, tell them you approved it." I didn't answer her. I opened my folder and pulled out the printed screenshot of my app error. I placed it on the table where the camera could see it. Then I pulled out the affidavit copy Mark had given me and placed it beside the screenshot. My mother stared at the papers like they were insults. "Rowan," she said, low, dangerous, "do you understand what you're doing to your sister?" I met her eyes without blinking. "I understand what she tried to do to me," I replied. My mother's face tightened. "She was trying to help you," she snapped. "You don't deserve that money. You never did." The sentence didn't sting the way it would have years ago, because now it wasn't about my worth, it was about her entitlement. A knock hit the back office door, not polite, official. The security supervisor opened it, and a uniformed officer stepped in, male, calm, not hurried. His body camera sat centered on his chest, lens like a cold little eye. "Afternoon," he said. "I'm Officer Ramirez. And who's the account holder?" "I am," I said. Officer Ramirez nodded once. "And who called?" Daniel raised his hand slightly. "Branch management," he said. "We have video, metadata, and a documented attempted POA change tied to an attempted wire. Corporate fraud is engaged." My mother stepped forward immediately, voice trembling on command. "Officer, thank God," she said. "My daughter is having an episode. She's accusing her sister of stealing because she's unstable. She needs help. Officer Ramirez didn't even look at me first. He looked at my mother's phone still in her hand. Then he looked at Tessa. Then he looked at Daniel. He asked, "What's the allegation?" Daniel answered with boring precision. Attempted power of attorney ad request on a trust profile. Attempted disbursement. I attempted contact information change to intercept alerts. Officer Ramirez's gaze shifted to my mother. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "you're making mental health claims. Do you have any medical authority over her?" My mother blinked, thrown off. "I'm her mother." Officer Ramirez nodded once, like he'd heard it 1,000 times. "That's not medical authority," he said. My mother's face flushed. "But she's not well," she insisted. "She's—" Officer Ramirez raised a hand. "We can do a welfare check if she requests it, or if there's evidence of immediate risk," he said. "But right now, I'm here for the fraud allegation." My mother's expression tightened. Because the officer was refusing to be her witness. He was choosing to be a recorder. Officer Ramirez turned to me. "Do you want to file a report?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "And I want the bank's evidence preserved." Mark slid a packet forward. "We can provide a formal statement and preserve the video and submission package," he said. "We can also provide a printout of the attempted wire destination profile." Officer Ramirez nodded. "Good," he said. "I'll need IDs from everyone present." My mother's chin lifted. "Why do you need my ID?" she demanded. "Because you're involved in the dispute and you're making allegations," Officer Ramirez said. "And because you entered a restricted area after being told not to." My mother's mouth opened, then closed. She fumbled in her purse, irritated that she couldn't bully her way out of procedure. Tessa handed hers over quickly, too quickly, like she'd rehearsed being compliant. Officer Ramirez wrote names and birth dates down, calm and methodical. Then he looked at Tessa. Did you submit a power of attorney request for your sister?" he asked. Tessa's eyes flicked to my mother. My mother jumped in. "She had permission," she said loudly. "Rowan asked her to help." Officer Ramirez held up a hand without looking at my mother. "I asked her," he said, still calm. Then he repeated it to Tessa. "Did you submit the request?" Tessa's throat worked. "She told me to," she said. "She was overwhelmed. She said she didn't want to deal with it." Officer Ramirez nodded slowly. "And did she come into the branch with you yesterday for identity verification?" Tessa hesitated a fraction of a second too long. "She was outside," she said. Mark didn't raise his voice. He turned the monitor slightly so the officer could see the paused frame from the lobby camera. Tessa alone at the teller line, timestamp visible, handing over documents. Officer Ramirez stared at it, then looked back at Tessa. "So she wasn't present," he said. Not a question. Tessa's cheeks flushed. "She didn't need to be," she snapped, then caught herself. "I'm her sister." Officer Ramirez's voice stayed boring. "That's not how identity verification works," he said. My mother's eyes narrowed. "Officer, she's trying to destroy her sister over money," she said, like the money was the sin, not the fraud. Officer Ramirez turned to Daniel. "What was the amount attempted?" he asked. Daniel answered without blinking. $200,000. My mother inhaled sharply. Tessa went very still. Officer Ramirez looked at me again. "And this is a trust fund?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Set up by my father." Officer Ramirez nodded and wrote something down. Then he asked Mark, "Where was the wire going?" Mark pulled up the destination profile on screen and tilted it toward the officer. "Flagged processor," he said. "High risk. Gambling linked patterns." My mother's voice rose. "That's not gambling," she snapped too fast, too loud. Officer Ramirez's eyes shifted to her. "How would you know that?" he asked. My mother froze. The silence in the room thickened, because there were only two reasons she'd know. Either Tessa told her details she shouldn't have told, or my mother was involved earlier than she claimed. Officer Ramirez didn't press her immediately. He just kept writing. Then Daniel spoke again, careful. "There's something else," he said. When corporate fraud reviewed the submission package, they cross-referenced the destination profile. My stomach tightened. I cross-referenced with what? Daniel's gaze met mine. "With prior flagged activity," he said, "and the same destination profile appears connected to another attempted transaction." I felt my skin go cold. "Another attempted transaction from my account?" Daniel shook his head once. "No," he said. "From a separate profile." Mark clicked and opened a new window, then turned the screen toward Officer Ramirez. Officer Ramirez leaned in, eyes scanning. His posture changed slightly, not panic, not drama, just the shift from single incident to pattern. He looked up at Tessa, then at my mother, then back at the screen. Officer Ramirez's voice dropped, controlled. "Ma'am," he said to me, "this isn't just someone trying to access your trust fund." My throat went tight. "What is it then?" Officer Ramirez tapped the screen once and said, "All right, this shows your sister has been connected to multiple flagged attempts involving that same gambling-linked processor, and one of them is tied to an identity profile that matches your social security number." My stomach dropped so hard, I had to grip the edge of the table to stay steady. Because that meant she hadn't just tried to become my power of attorney. She'd tried to become me somewhere else, too. For a moment, no one spoke. Officer Ramirez kept his pen still over the report form, like he was waiting for the room to decide whether it wanted to lie on record. My mother's eyes darted to Tessa. Tessa's eyes darted anywhere but the screen. Daniel didn't move. Mark didn't move. Even the security supervisor looked frozen, because an identity profile that matches your social security number wasn't a misunderstanding. And it was a second life someone built using my name. "Show me," I said quietly. Mark didn't argue. He clicked into the corporate fraud notes Daniel had referenced and pulled up a summary screen. He turned it toward Officer Ramirez first, then angled it so I could see. It wasn't my account page. It was a different profile entirely. Different institution name inside the bank's network view. Different product type. Different contact information. But the identifying fields were mine. My full name, my date of birth, and the last 4 digits of my social security number. And beneath that, in a line that made my stomach turn, was the linked destination descriptor. Same flagged processor, prior attempt logged. Mark scrolled once. A phone number was listed on the identity profile. It wasn't mine. It was Tessa's. Then the email. Not mine. Tessa's. And then the mailing address. A P.O. box across town. The same one she had tried to switch my profile to yesterday. My hand stayed flat on the table. The room blurred at the edges for a second, but I forced my focus back onto the facts. "Do you see why the hold happened?" Mark asked softly. I nodded once. "Because the system recognized a pattern," I said. Daniel's voice was controlled, almost gentle. "The fraud team cross-matched the destination and the contact changes," he said. "It's consistent with someone trying to intercept alerts while moving funds." Officer Ramirez leaned closer to the screen, then looked up at Tessa. "Tessa," he said evenly, "I'm going to ask you directly. Did you create this identity profile using your sister's social security number?" Tessa's mouth opened. My mother lunged into the silence like she always did. I'm desperate to fill it before anyone could hear the truth. "Officer, this is ridiculous," she snapped. "She's confused by the bank's technical nonsense. My daughter wouldn't do that." Officer Ramirez didn't even look at my mother. He kept his eyes on Tessa. "Tessa?" he repeated. "Yes or no?" Tessa's throat worked. "I don't know what that is," she said too fast. "That could be anything. People get hacked all the time." Mark tapped the screen once, calm and brutal. "The contact phone number and email on that identity profile are yours," he said. "And the P.O. box matches the change request you submitted on your sister's profile yesterday." Tessa's face went pale. My mother's eyes widened in a flash of panic she couldn't polish fast enough. Officer Ramirez wrote something down slowly. "So you're saying the bank accidentally populated your phone number and your email into an identity profile built with your sister's social security number?" he said, voice neutral, almost bored. Tessa's lips trembled. "I'm saying I didn't do it." Officer Ramirez nodded once, then turned to Daniel. "Do you have the video from yesterday at 4:12 showing her alone submitting documents?" he asked. "Yes," Daniel said. "And the submission metadata." "Good," Ramirez said. Then he looked back at Tessa. "Tessa, I'm going to ask you something else. Why was there an attempted wire for $200,000 to a flagged gambling-linked processor?" Tessa's eyes flicked to my mother again. My mother's jaw tightened. "Stop interrogating her," she snapped. "This is harassment." Officer Ramirez finally looked at my mother. His expression didn't change. "Ma'am," he said, "you are not the account holder. You are not the victim here. You're also not helping." My mother flushed, furious. "She's my daughter," she hissed. "So is she," he replied, nodding toward me. That landed harder than I expected. Not because it was emotional, but because it was factual in a way my mother spent years trying to erase. Daniel's desk phone buzzed again, an internal line. He answered, listened, and then turned the speaker on. A woman's voice filled the room, crisp and professional. "This is Corporate Fraud Review," she said. "For record purposes, please confirm you are with the account holder, Rowan Hart." "I am," I said. "Ms. Hart," she continued, "we have confirmed there has been no successful disbursement from your trust distribution account. The attempted wire is pending and has been voided. Your trust principal remains intact. We are placing a permanent restriction on all authority changes and all external disbursements unless completed in person with enhanced verification." My shoulders loosened by a fraction. Not relief. Control. "What about the identity profile using my social security number?" I asked. There was a pause. Keyboard clicks on her end. "We are treating it as identity theft," she said. "We will be filing a suspicious activity report and providing supporting documentation to law enforcement upon request. We recommend you place a credit freeze, file an identity theft report, and we can provide you with our internal case number today." My mother stepped forward like she couldn't stop herself. "This is insane!" She snapped at the speakerphone. "Hey, you can't accuse my daughter." The voice on speaker didn't rise. "Ma'am," she said calmly, "I am not accusing anyone. I am describing what our controls detected, what our records show, and what we are required to do." My mother's mouth tightened in rage. Tessa's face cracked. Just for a moment, fear slipping through the cardigan and smile persona, because a suspicious activity report isn't a family argument. Like it's a door that closes behind you. Officer Ramirez held his pen up slightly. "Ma'am," he asked the voice on speaker, "will you preserve the video, metadata, and submission package with the timestamp?" "Yes," she said. "A litigation hold has already been placed." The word hold hit my mother like a physical blow. Her entire strategy relied on time erasing things. On people forgetting, on systems overwriting. I never said that. A litigation hold meant the past would stay put. Officer Ramirez looked at Tessa again. "Tessa," he said, "I'm going to give you one opportunity to stop digging. If you've accessed your sister's identity, if you've created accounts, if you've attempted to move funds, this is your moment to stop talking like this is a misunderstanding." Tessa's eyes shone with sudden tears. "I was trying to help," she whispered. I didn't move. I'd heard that phrase my whole life, said right before something expensive disappeared. Officer Ramirez nodded once, as if he'd heard it too. Help doesn't require a power of attorney, he said. Help doesn't require changing someone's contact info. Help doesn't require a gambling-linked wire. Tessa's lips parted, and then she said the first honest thing I'd heard from her in years. I was going to put it back, she whispered. My mother spun on her. Tessa, she hissed, warning in her voice. Tessa flinched. Then she lifted her chin like she was too far in to retreat. I was going to win it back, she said, voice shaking now. It was a sure thing. I just needed one run. Just one. The room went silent again. Mark exhaled slowly through his nose like he was watching a nightmare become paperwork. Officer Ramirez's posture changed. Not dramatic, just decisive. Thank you, he said, and wrote. That's an admission of intent. My mother stepped forward, eyes wild. She didn't mean... Officer Ramirez held up a hand. Stop, he said. You're done speaking. My mother stared at him like he'd slapped her. Tessa's face crumpled. She looked at me then, really looked, and as if she expected me to rescue her from the consequences the way I always used to rescue the family from my mother's moods. I didn't. I said calmly, I want a report number. Officer Ramirez nodded. You'll have it, he said. And I'm going to request the bank's evidence package. Tessa, you and your mother need to leave the branch now. Security will escort you. If you refuse, you'll be trespassed. My mother's voice rose, sharp and ugly. You ungrateful. Daniel's tone cut through her. Security, he said, and the supervisor moved immediately. Tessa tried one last pivot, voice pleading, eyes wide. Rowan, please, she whispered. Don't do this. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't call her names. I just said, you did it. Security escorted them out. My mother fought the whole way. I'm throwing words like knives at the air, trying to make a scene big enough to drown out the records. Tessa walked stiffly, eyes down, phone clutched too tight in her hand like she could squeeze time backward. When they were gone, the back office felt too quiet, like a room after a storm. Mark slid a fresh packet toward me. Here's your case number, he said. Here's confirmation the wire was voided. Here's the restriction profile we placed. No authority changes, no contact changes, no external transfers without enhanced in-person verification. Daniel added, we're also issuing you new online credentials and placing a fraud marker that requires face-to-ID verification for any future requests. Officer Ramirez handed me a card with a report number written on it in blue ink. You'll get contacted by a detective assigned to financial crimes, he said. If your credit is impacted, you document it. If she contacts you, you document it. If your mother shows up at your home, you call. I nodded. I will. Before I left, Mark walked me to a small kiosk in the branch and helped me reset everything. New login, new passcodes, new security questions. A verbal passphrase that only I would know. A note in the system that simply read, do not discuss account with third parties, in-person verification only. I watched him click save, and it felt like a lock turning that my sister would never hold a key to again. That evening, I froze my credit, filed an identity theft report, and set alerts on everything tied to my social security number. For the first time in weeks, and I ate dinner without checking my phone every 2 minutes. 2 weeks later, the bank confirmed the identity profile had been used to initiate multiple attempted transfers tied to the same processor. Tessa was charged with attempted identity theft and attempted fraud based on the branch video, the submission metadata, and her own admission in the back office. My mother wasn't charged that day, but she was trespassed from the branch and warned in writing to stop interfering. I filed for a protective order anyway, and it was granted after I provided the police report number and the bank's documentation. My trust fund stayed mine. Not because anyone felt sorry for me, because the system finally had what my family never expected me to bring, a clean record. A month later, I logged into my banking app and saw my balance again. No red line, no access denied, no restricted hold. Just my name, my funds, and a small note that the account required in-person verification for anything meaningful. I keep the report number in my wallet like a reminder that silence isn't weakness when it's backed by proof. And I don't take help from people who need my identity to offer it. What would you do if you opened your bank app and saw access denied? Would you call your family first? Or go straight to the fraud line and the branch like I did? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want more stories like this, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.